Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Basement Card Collector. Today's video is going to be a VR for our friend Mark over at Mark's Dodger Cards. He has recently surpassed the 330 subscriber number. Congratulations, Mark. They're piling up very quickly for you over there. He has a great Dodger card collection, as you can imagine, and he is asking for the VR to have these three things. He's asking us to mention 3 channels that are on YouTube for less than 3 years, and he is asking for 3 players that are in the Hall of Very Good and not quite to the Hall of Fame. And that's to go in line with the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame and then the actual National Baseball Hall of Fame, which has recently just selected its new members. So it kind of ties together nice for Mark and his Dodger card collection. So here we go. I did choose probably my very best 2 Dodger cards to go along with our stage today. Joining my 1989 Topps Andre Dawson is the final playing days card of Dodger great Sandy Koufax, my only Sandy Koufax card. We got that at a card shop. And the Brooklyn Dodgers team card, which is my #1 Dodgers card, and it has every Dodger player you can imagine. The Jackie Robinson, Carl Erskine, Furillo, Don Zimmer, Don Newcomb, Pee Wee Reese, you name it, they're on there. And I got that from our good buddy Drew, a Vintage Legacy. Check his channel out as well. Let's get into those 3 channels and 3 players, shall we? We are going to go with the first channel, just under 3 years, is one of my favorites, the Zach and Porter Show. It's a father-son channel, a Chicago White Sox and Bears and Bulls. Oh my. They build sets together, they player collect. It's just really cool getting to know them through the YouTubes, and they are almost to that 3-year mark, and I thought I'd use them as my first channel to go along with my first player in the Hall of Very Good. How about this guy? 40-40 club member. He was with the Cubs for a minute. Mr. Alfonso Soriano on the shiny. I looked for 2 of the shiniest cards I could pull out, and Upper Deck knew how to do that back in the day. For the first player that we're going to go with, his numbers, like I said, 40-40, which is a pretty good number. He has 2,000 hits and over 400 home runs, just shy of 1,200 RBIs. He was a Cubby for a few seasons. He played with some other teams as well, but a very good player. I think he would fare very well in today's game, where they hit a lot of home runs and strike out a lot, because he did that before it was cool. So our first player in the Hall of Very Good, Mr. Alfonso Soriano, to go along with our good buddy Zach and Porter. Channel number 2 is a good friend, Alan, over at Collecting Maddox. And Alan is like you can see there, a super collector of Greg Maddux. He is also getting a really great collection of Hall of Fame autographs on some kind of like larger size cards. They look great, Alan. And the player that I'm choosing to go with the Hall of Very Good from my Chicago Cubbies, former Cy Young Award winner, Mr. Rick Sutcliffe. And I chose a few cards here. This 1991 Donruss. You don't see too many of these on the YouTube. Big Rick, he was a big dude, 6'6". We actually acquired him from Cleveland back in '84. He also, I should know this without looking, but was part of the Joe Carter trade. Cleveland ended up, I don't know. I feel like they're connected and I'm drawing a blank, and that's not cool, man. Rick Sutcliffe, this is, he won the 1984 Cy Young Award. He was struggling in Cleveland. He had, I think he was under 500, maybe 4-5, with an ERA over 5, and they dealt him to the Chicago Cubs. And if you, oh, right there, 4-5. But look what he did when the Cubs got a hold of him. 16-1. An ERA under 3. He pitched in 20 games and was 16-1. They ended up winning the 1984 Cy Young. They ended up losing in the NLCS, which is a very sad story for Cubby fans. But Rick Sutcliffe, he is in the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. He is a well-loved former Cubby player, but he just doesn't quite have the numbers to go into the MLB Hall of Fame. He has, I think, just shot, 171 wins, a career ERA of just over 4. He is in the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame, like we said, but I don't think he's going to make the big show. Our third channel for Mark's VR is our relatively new channel, our buddy Jay over at Average Vintage Collector. He is from the Buffalo area. He is, just like the name says, an average vintage collector. He says he's picking up average cards, and he has some really cool cards. So Jay, he is really new to the YouTube. I've watched all of his channels. He is a great guy. You should sub him up if you're not already familiar with him. The player that I chose to go along with Mr. Alfonso Soriano and Cy Young Award winner Rick Sutcliffe, he has some really awesome numbers. We're talking Aramis Ramirez. He goes unnoticed, I feel, in the terms of third baseman that, you know, just back in those days of the 05, 06, 07, 08, the Cubbies were very good there. And if you can look at his stats, here's another shiny card we found, kind of matches the Soriano on that spectrum. Just a cool looking card. Just look at some of the numbers. 36 bombs, 103 ribbies, 31 bombs, 92 RBIs, 38 home runs, 119, 26, and 101. He was an all-star a few times. Listen to his career numbers. A 283 career average, which is really good. He has, where is he at? 2,300 hits. Okay, 2,300 hits, 386 home runs, and just a tip over 1,400 RBIs. A couple times he was an all-star. He is a Chicago Cubs Hall of Famer. And again, his numbers, those are some pretty legit power numbers. I don't know how they compare to other Hall of Fame third basemen, but he just kind of gets lumped into, I don't believe he was ever in the PED story. He was a very solid defender. But the typical third base power RBI kind of guy. And I think people kind of overlook him. Aramis Ramirez. And I have two guys that I instantly thought of that are just kind of bonus. I love Shawon Dunston. Here he is on the 92 Upper Deck card. He is a Chicago Cubs Hall of Famer as well. He just was inducted this past season, actually. We're not including them in the contest, but just to show that art card again is always cool. But the first person that comes to mind, and I don't know how he's not in the Big League Hall of Fame down in Cooperstown, but Mr. Mark Grace. And everybody by now knows he was the hits leader for the 1990s. He's a 300 career batting average player, smooth as they come as far as fielding over there at first base. And we would just call these more of a bonus as far as Mark's VR goes. But here you would have three players and the two bonuses. Alfonso Soriano, Chicago Cubbies outfielder, 40-40 club member, over 400 home runs. Rick Sutcliffe, the 1984 Cy Young Award winner, the Chicago Cub Hall of Famer Rick Sutcliffe. Aramis Ramirez, almost those are almost Hall of Fame numbers for Aramis Ramirez, and I feel like he is the far most overlooked player here on this list. But to go along with the honorary captains of this VR, if you will, Shawon Dunston, and one of my favorite Cubbies ever, Mr. Mark Grace. Please go check these channels out. I will put a link in there, of course, but don't forget, check out Alan at Collecting Maddox. Check out Jay, Average Vintage Collector, and our very good buddies, Mr. Zach and Porter. Please check them out. And for the person hosting this VR, Mark's Dodger Cards, check his channel out. Get some really cool prizes. And even if we don't, you know, it's just fun to sort cards and look for cards in a different way. And for this VR, it was a good time looking. Thank you folks for watching. We'll see you next time.